And to help us get started this morning, I'd like to invite out for the thought for the day, Trond.
All right. Hopefully this will inspire you for the day. So my quote for the day here is, when a man will treat his fellow man as a man should treat his neighbor. If we keep a heart full of love for all mankind today, come what may, war and strife, may the soul still trust and pray. So I'm going to leave you to pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I believe we have a song.
We do have a song. So we have a few unfamiliar faces, so welcome, or moderately familiar faces, welcome. We sing every Tuesday morning, so given our speaker is focused on stories, I was looking for a song that told a story, and most of them were, I was actually thinking of doing Alice's Restaurant, which was about 35 minutes, so that would be the whole meeting, but I chose a little Steve Miller since some of us, I did, saw him this summer at San Michelle, so we're going to do Take the Money and Run. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can actually read it.
This is a story about Billy Joe and Bobby Sue. To the young hunters, split, nothing better to do. Sit around the house, get high and watch it too. Here's what happened when they decided to cut loose. They headed down to El Paso. That's where they ran into a great big hassle. Billy Joe's caught a man while robbing his castle. Bobby Sue took the money and run. Go on, take 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 the money and run. Billy Mack is a detective down in Texas. He knows just exactly what the fact is. He ain't gonna let those two escape justice. He makes his living off of the people's taxes. Bobby Sue, whoa, she slipped away. Billy Joe caught up to her the very next day. They got the money, they got away. Get down south and they're still running today. So go on, take the money and run. Go on, take the money and run. Go on, take the money and run. Go on, take the money and run.
So little known fact, Steve Miller Band was the house band at the Fillmore in San Francisco for like 20 years. So open and very open for all the different. That's how they do it. Go on, take money and run. Go on, take money and run. Go on, take the money and run. Nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Joel. Pretty sure that Billy Joe and Bobby Sue weren't Rotarian. Just guessing. All All right. Well, glad to see everybody here this morning. Who here attended our special happy hour event last week? That was fun. So glad everybody was there. I thought it was a lot of fun. We had lots of great guests. In fact, we have one of the guests from happy hour here this morning. Glad to see Vera. So welcome. And so it's great to have you here. And so that was a fantastic event. And Matt's going to come up in a little bit and talk to us more about membership programs and creative things that we're doing to help build membership in our club. Also, quick announcement, we do have a board meeting, 2 board meetings right after this meeting. So please attend if you're on the board, and even if you just want to check it out and see what we do to lead the club. So you're welcome to attend after today's meeting. And some other quick announcements. Let's see, on the calendar, Hunger Intervention Program, Food for Kids 5K is coming up. Wow, September 21st. That's over, isn't it? All right, we'll forget about that one. Same with Mercer Island's Walk for Peace. World Polio Day. Oh, sorry. World Polio Day is October 24th. That's coming up in a month, and we have a special event coming together for that. I don't know if Howard wanted to talk a little bit about this. This was announced at our last meeting at the happy hour event, but Howard, if you wanted to talk a little bit more about the event.
2 things. One, regarding the board meeting, you guys can go into the living room behind the bar.
Yeah, like the lounge.
In the lounge.
Yep. Okay.
World Polio Day, October 24th, Thursday. We're going to do a pub crawl. It's right around the corner. Roy Street, I believe, the street. It's with Medeman's, Solo, and Streamline.
Great.
And so we've met with each of them. We're hoping they're going to give us back a little bit on each of the drinks. And then what we'll do is we'll have, during one of those periods where everybody's in one place, we can have a little discussion on polio, talk about donating money to Polio Plus. And for anybody that does donate, no matter what the dollar amount, we're going to paint your pinky purple. And that has nothing to do with you guys. It's purple because when kids get their drops, they dip their pinky into purple ink. That shows that they've actually got the vaccine. So we're going to do that. It'll be 5:30 to 8. Hang around as long as whatever. We'll go to the different bars. And we're going to go around to the different clubs and try to get other clubs to join us. And also make it a networking and maybe get some members. We have some new brochures that were made up. We'll have those around. And hopefully we'll be friends.
Yes, thank you. So thank you, Howard, for helping to coordinate that. And the purpose is to raise awareness and raise money for World Polio Day, for polio eradication, which is one of our big programs in Rotary. With that, I will bring up our Sergeant at Arms. Please help me welcome Debbie Seaman.
Thank you very much, Mark. And a hearty good morning to everyone. We'd like to take a moment to introduce our guests today. Do we have any? I know we have one guest for sure. Would you be introducing her, Bill?
Sure. For a second time.
Sure.
She's came to our happy event last week and decided to come back today. So welcome there.
I'd like to introduce Jen Driscoll, who is from the West Seattle Club.
Hi.
She works next door at the Gates Foundation. And a side note on the Gates Foundation, if anybody has Netflix, there's a 3-episode series called Inside Bill's Brain. It has to do with Bill Gates. It's absolutely brilliant. The 3 topics are toilets, polio, and power. And it is absolutely a marvelous thing. They don't, during the polio, they don't really mention Rotary, but they do show the symbol. It is in there. It's really brilliant.
thank you.
Oh,
both.
Jen. And I did mention to her the new news structure, which caught her ear. And so maybe she'll move over since she's right next door.
That's right.
That's great. Thank you both for being here. Any other guests or Rotarians as guests today? Yes.
I have Norman Bell, our speaker, and I will introduce him when he takes the podium.
Thank you. I want to just take a moment to see if there are any happy bucks today. Is anybody? Yes, Jay.
Well, many of you know for the last 3 years I've been working with Microsoft to build a partner network of telephone companies. And I've finished up that project, and I'm starting a new one tomorrow with a data company and we're going to build a network of data consulting partners all around the world. So I've got a new job.
All right.
Hey, thank you very much. Howard.
So I was at Zone Institute as well as NAPS training for recovery. And the real theme of both of those conferences was the why. Why are you in Rotary? So it's really important to understand, what got you into Rotary, and more importantly, what keeps you in Rotary. And so I'm going to start something hopefully other people will follow. And I'm going to do a reverse happy buck. Put $1 in. If anybody wants to join me, I'd like to ask Mark, as our first person to do this, just to get up and do a quick 1-minute Rotary moment and explain what got him into Rotary and, more importantly, what keeps him in Rotary.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you, Howard. So I got into Rotary 11 years ago. I was invited by a coworker of mine at the time, David Morhorst, and he mentioned Rotary at a company event, and I asked him more about it. He said, come check out a meeting. I loved the people. I loved our speakers. We always have fantastic speakers, but what really resonated with me was the philosophy behind Rotary, the service above self. And at the time, I was really looking for an opportunity to participate in service organizations. So this seemed like a perfect opportunity, and it gives you great leadership opportunities too. So it's a fantastic organization, and I plan to be a lifer. I guess I am a lifer. So that's why I'm still here.
Thank you very much. And if you are interested in talking about why you joined Rotary, you too could become the president of the club.
That's
after that.
right.
Were you going to say something, Tom?
I will. I'll put 10 in. One, which I'm actually not going to elaborate on, but hearing about Bill Gates is brilliant. And the deal on toilets in Bangladesh. And the village asking me to use the toilet that our organization had paid for as the whole village is in a circle around me watching go into this little brass where the screen comes to about here. And there's nothing about that. It's a very embarrassing moment for me. I didn't know what to do with the importance of toilets there. The thing that I actually want to bring up was I was gone for 3 weeks because I was in England, Scotland, and Wales. And it was absolutely delightful. I put in 10, $5 for each of these. One is how young our country is came so much to the fore for me as I'm in Conway, Wales, and we're in a castle that was built 1400s, 1500s, and this tour guide who's walking us around this castle is in a room, and she's talking about how it was built and King Henry VIII's influence on it, and da-da-da-da-da. And as we're saying this room, she points to the ceiling, she says, no, it's all old except for the ceiling. The ceiling is very, very modern. It was built 200 years ago. She goes right on, and I just thought, oh my gosh, that's more than half the history of our country. And she's thinking about modern, about that our country in perspective. That I don't know why that stuck with me. Second thing is a more interesting story is we ended our trip at the Savoy Hotel in London. We had a farewell dinner with our tour group, and when my wife and I came back to our room at 9:15 p.m., walked down the hallway, housekeeping is going in and out of our room. We walk into our room, and it has been stripped clean. Every piece of luggage gone, my camera bag gone, all our clothing gone, all our toiletries gone, the bed is stripped, and we stand there going, what the heck happened? And I asked a housekeeper, and they're literally running in and out of the room. This is not a hotel where employees run. And Where's it? I'm sorry, I can't say anything. A manager will be here. Very long story short, it turns out the hotel is owned 50%, half the hotel is owned by 50% owner of the hotel is the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. He called the day before and said, I want the entire fifth floor. Which included our room. Now the hotel didn't bother to tell us. We just showed up to a stripped room. Oh my gosh, it was, yeah, and it actually got a little worse from there. But that was something we got home. I decided, that's actually just a first world problem. I'm with an organization dealing with third world problems. And I thought, okay, I now have a good story today. So I was kicked out of my room by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia.
Was the new room as good or bad?
Oh, you should have heard the upsell by the hotel. I'm so happy with your new room. You're overlooking the Thames River, which of course you can't see at 9:30 at night. Yeah, it was an upgrade room, but I would have much rather just. So anyway, so there's $10 for me.
Thank you, Tom. Just when you think you've experienced everything in life, there's a surprise for you. Well, I'd like to cut it off now in interest of our Sergeant at Arms other piece, but take the opportunity to ask you all to be thinking about why it is that you are in Rotary, and over the coming weeks we'll have a chance to hear from you. We'd really like that. So I would like to have us use the next few minutes that we have during the Sergeant at Arms time to get to know one another better. And I want to ask you to think about your children, or if you don't have children, someone in your family when they were a child or a young adult. And then what I'd like you to specifically think about is something that the featured person you're thinking of did to either make you very proud of them, something perhaps good that happened, or something bad that happened, but their recovery from it was so astounding that it made you proud of them as well. I'd like to give you an example from my family just to kindle your thoughts. And here it is. So I was a single mother of 3 children, aged 9, 11, and 13 in Northern California. And my sons were on their own between the time school ended and when I got home from work. Even though they had soccer and football and other activities, they were very creative in how they used that unsupervised time, and they got into things they hadn't done before. And I think that smoking pot was one of them, and I'm not sure what else. My oldest son was a very bad liar. And so even though I am the Pollyanna of the world, even to me, it was obvious that there was monkey business going on. His next brother in line, my middle son, was a more subtle person, and he didn't show as much, but he probably was doing worse things. And then my third son probably said to himself, I just can't do it to the poor woman. And he behaved pretty darn well. Our blessing was that a counselor at the high school took my eldest son under her wing, and they talked a lot, and often. And over time, he began to return to the wonderful person he had been before the divorce in our family. Now for the point of my story. One evening, he was the featured speaker at the PTA meeting, which was standing room only, in a community that tended to be rather judgmental. So there I'm sitting, not because I wanted to be there, but because I wanted to be supportive of my son. I'm sitting there with his 2 brothers, and he is telling the story of his experimentation with drugs and his recovery. And I am sitting there. I can't tell you how embarrassed I was and how uncomfortable I was. And yet, at the same time, I was very proud of him for telling his story. And I would say astonishingly proud. And I realized in that moment that you can be embarrassed, humiliated, ashamed, and proud at the same time. I want to tell you an update. My son is an estate attorney who used to smoke pot. Maybe still does, I don't know. And he was just asked by the governor of California to become a judge. So I guess it turned out okay. But I'd like to really focus back to you now and ask you if you would talk at your tables about something. It doesn't have to be as dramatic as my story. I can't believe I'm even telling you about it because at the time I thought I'll never tell another soul about it. So time is the great healer. But if you could tell us something that your featured person did that was good or bad, but that made you proud of them, or something about yourself, we will know you better and we will greatly appreciate that opportunity to know you better. So would you talk at your tables for a few minutes? Please go ahead.
Debbie's
All right, Sherry.
I was talking to Sherry, my wife went through a breast cancer journey in 2018, and we're talking about our children. My daughter, 9-year-old daughter, my sickness. And I can skip to the end here that my wife is doing very well. She's on the treatment. At the beginning of that journey, we had a conference with our teacher at the time, and she was behind reading and just about reading, writing, math, struggling a little bit, and yet during this whole period, she actually kind of flourished as far as her education. I think part of it was not to give ourselves too big of a pat on the back, but communicating very well about what's going on, and meetings and so forth. And so I think she was very much for it.
Great.
Sometimes when I think about kids, a little bit more versatile. Like, it was back in my first room to my oldest sister. Anxiety, like she had emetophobia, she had a concussion, which is like
Oh, weird.
but totally fine. So she would need and she fell off this building, and she had to go to the hospital and all this stuff. But it was weird, like it sort of like snapped her out of that. Like it made her anxieties go away. Like I think the combination of like living through something actually traumatic and surviving it and being okay, and that like when she got out of the hospital, like she wasn't afraid anymore. Yeah, and I feel like I mean she still has it, but I mean not nearly as like there's able to shelter. Right. In a weird way, because it's not kind. It's the children,
Well, I was just thinking about Marshall. He hasn't really gone through anything traumatic yet, which is good and bad. I guess no big challenges like that. But I am proud of him. He's been very active in Scout. We just went to an honor ceremony for Scouts where he got a bunch of merit badges, and he's on the path to Eagle Scout. So that I'm proud of him. He's self-directed in a lot of ways, although he plays way too much Minecraft. But yeah, so yeah, just proud of him because I can see what kind of person he's turning.
Organization.
Yeah, he loves it. And his mom does. I go to the ceremony.
Let's take about one more minute.
So do you live nearby? Okay.
Sometimes feels far away because
Sure.
it feels like an island in some ways. Even small city I live in that's next to Seattle, called West Seattle.
That's right.
Yeah, I appreciate the focus on service here.
Have you spoken at other
I actually spoke here maybe 5 years ago now.
I must have seen you.
I spoke at another one up north.
Great. I know they got clubs in West Seattle.
Yeah.
They do. Do they meet? Their club meets at.
We should.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for doing that. Is there anybody in the room whose children were total angels and you were too? Raise your hand. Does anybody want to tell us anything that you heard that you think we should know? This is voluntary, you don't have to.
There's some more to it.
Joel, how about you?
Sure. So my son, who actually went through Rotary exchange programs today, on his senior trip and graduating high school, we all went down with a bunch of their friends and so forth to Mexico. He broke his neck and diving into the beach and was flown back here on a medical jet, had surgery. But he's fine. This is a long time ago, but he was always a big kid throughout growing up, and then he couldn't do any exercise for a year. So he went from about 220 pounds to 265 pounds. And as soon as the year was over and the doctor said he could exercise again, he was very focused, and this was at college, and his sophomore year. And within 12 months, he lost 95 pounds.
Wow.
And he now weighs about the same, about 170. Very active rock climber, backcountry skier. Yeah, he basically just said, I'm not going to live that life. And so he lives in Steamboat, Colorado. Skis all winter and rock climbs, bikes all summer.
Sounds like father like son to me. Anybody else? One more story?
I'll just
Anybody?
give you a quick summary here. We heard about 3 stories, and they were all about women.
Ah,
One mother and 2 daughters.
okay. Was it good?
All 3 of them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for participating, and I hope that was enlightening to you. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Debbie. We were going to have more of a longer short program, but maybe we can have a micro short program from our own Matt Story to talk about membership activity.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to thank all the Rotarians that came to our happy hour meeting last Tuesday. It was a lot of fun and a productive meeting. So I put a couple of handouts on the tables. I'm sorry I didn't print up 30 copies. If you've ever been to a sales meeting, you know what the sales funnel is. Sales and recruiting and fundraising all have similar concepts. And so you might think, gosh, I hate sales. I hate salespeople. But unfortunately, that's part of recruiting. And so the funnel is a real common concept in sales where at the top of the funnel, you pour a lot of names in our case, a lot of people that might be interested in joining the club or volunteering. And so we successfully accomplished that with our happy hour meeting. We had probably 15 people invited. A percentage of those made it, as the funnel kind of goes like this. And then we were able to convert 2 of those visitors to prospective members. And so as you see, they made it to stage 2 of the funnel. And why am I making this so complicated? The mistake I made in recruiting is assuming that, oh, they'll never join the club. Why invite them to anything? That person's not going to join. Well, I don't know that. And I don't need to try and get them all the way to the bottom of the funnel in one step. Just go one stage at a time. And so the first stage is awareness. Just invite them to a meeting. Don't assume anything about what they or they won't do, or maybe they know someone or what have you. And another point I want to make too is not joining the club doesn't mean they can't be a volunteer, to be part of our club and contribute to the good that we're doing. And so if you look at the second level there, we have Vera, which is terrific. Welcome, Vera. We also have Patrick, who can't make it. He has he's a personal trainer and has 2 appointments on Tuesday mornings with clients. Yet he would like to attend one of the volunteer events and maybe down the line expand his relationship with Rotary. So just excited to kind of see, first of all, a successful event that hopefully is bringing on a new member. And so shout out to Bob, who helped facilitate Vera getting here, and little bit more about this. So as you move further down, we get to the third stage, which is a qualified prospect. And so stage one is a suspect, then prospect, then qualified prospect. So qualified prospect would be someone that meets our criteria for joining, has the time, money, and desire to join, the integrity, the honesty, meets the basic qualification. And that is someone that we can obtain an application from and move them farther through the process. So the final point I want to make about this too is it doesn't end at when they join. So we want to, if you notice at the bottom, the support and loyalty stage. So it's one thing to become a member, but we want you to be a loyal member, a productive member, a member of committees, someone that might actually be a club leader over time and recruit additional people to join. And so we don't want to lose focus on people that join the club as new members. We want to do an orientation. We want to welcome them, get them into a committee, and have them be a lifelong member of the club. And so hopefully this little diagram kind of helps. Some of the key things that we got to do is continue to wear our pins, get those introductions to people. I think that might be the biggest challenge for us, is just putting more people at the top of the funnel. I think I learned at the happy hour meeting that we have such nice, fun, interesting people in our club that just get prospective members in the same room with a Marite or a Bob or a Warren, and things will kind of just take their own course from there. And so recruiting just one step at a time. Wear your pin, get people to the next happy hour meeting, which is going to be a real similar event, November 19th, here at the club at the same time at 6 o'clock. So that again will be a club meeting. It's a Tuesday, so we'll have no morning meeting on November 19th, and we can continue this process. The last thing I'll leave you with is kind of segueing on what Debbie started, was thinking about, why did you join Rotary? Why did you join Rotary? In my case, someone I trusted invited me to a meeting. And that seems like a small thing, but it's true. It's a little bit flattering. Bob invited me to a meeting, invited me to a couple meetings, and it was a positive experience. And Bob was a guy that I trust, and I thought, it just kind of starts the process in the prospect's mind. You don't have to do as much selling in Rotary. Rotary kind of sells itself. Just get these people in the door and invite someone that trusts you to attend one of our events, and we'll be able to take it from there. So thank you, everyone, for attending the happy hour event. Excited to keep this process going and achieve our goal of 3 new members by June of next year.
All right. Thank you, Matt. We really appreciate all the effort that you're putting into the membership committee at this time. Yes.
Just one comment. I didn't realize that we don't have the same meeting attendance requirement that we used to have.
We try not to tell people that attendance is not mandatory. Yes, that's true.
Because in the day, some people say, like, I can't make that meeting, but we see it as a requirement.
Right. So it's a secret. But attendance is not mandatory, but we expect you to be here and there. At this time, I will have Sherry come up and introduce our main speaker. Sherry.
Thank you. Very happy to introduce Norman Bell. He is an award-winning speaker, performer, facilitator, storytelling, and presentation coach who has helped Fortune 500 companies, major nonprofits, and small business entrepreneurs tell their authentic story in a way that engages their audience and helps them connect with their ideal clients. He has used his communication skills to help companies like Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, AT&T, Rick Steves, and Fred Hutch. As an actor, he played opposite Academy Award-winning Christian Bale. What's that dude like? In The Machinist, and wrote, co-produced, and starred in the popular solo show Subprime. Norman's mission is to help entrepreneurs and leaders share their story, nail their message, and connect with their audiences and change the world. Help me welcome Norman Bell. Pardon me? Oh, yes. Can somebody turn off that screen?
If it's difficult.
I think we'll just.
I am just not the person to do it. Thank you. Okay.
So if you want to vote for me on the count of 3, yell, hell yes. 1, 2, 3. Hell yes. Ah, and it was at that moment that I fell in love with storytelling and public speaking. That was the end of a speech that I gave at the end of my junior year in high school when I was running for student council. My slogan was, hell yes, vote for Norm. I found out later that day that I had won the election by a landslide, and I went on to have a hell yes senior year. 25 years later, I'm working as a copywriter in a job that's paying the bills, but it's not exactly feeding my soul. And I have these 2 words that keep ringing in the back of my mind. Do you know what those 2 words were? Hell yes, that's right. Hell yes, hell yes. And I knew I had to do something with those 2 words. Well, in 2017, I launched the Hell Yes Life podcast. And since then, I have interviewed dozens of amazing Hell Yes entrepreneurs, adventurers, speakers, and authors who are all out there living their Hell Yes lives. The podcast has been downloaded thousands of times by listeners in over 70 countries. And now I am returning to these 2 original Hell Yeses, storytelling and public speaking. And my mission is to help you, the purpose-driven leader, entrepreneur, influencer who wants to tell your story, nail your message, connect with your customers so you can grow your business and impact the world. That is a mission that makes me want to say, hell yes. My name is Norman Bell. I am a storytelling speaker, trainer, consultant, and coach. And I'm excited to be here this morning to talk to you about the 3 keys to becoming a powerful story leader. Let's dive right in. The first, the 3 keys actually are to story up, to show up, and to fess up. And we'll take those one at a time. So first, story up. What do I mean when I say story up? Well, I mean 2 things. First, I mean that you need to get up to speed on the power of storytelling and the effect that it can have on your business. Storytelling isn't just something that you do with your kids when you put them to bed at night. It is now a fundamental leadership skill that you need to master if you really want to connect with your customers on an emotional level. Steve Jobs said that the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. So what makes storytelling so important, so powerful? Well, on a scientific basis, storytelling actually hits a different part of the brain from mere facts, figures, and data. Facts, figures, and data are processed by the neocortex, a relatively newer part of the brain. But only storytelling gets to an ancient part of the brain, the emotional center of the brain, the limbic brain. And it's actually there where all decision making takes place. So you're going to want to get back there, and only storytelling can do it. Now, the other thing I mean by story up is that you need to start collecting stories. Now, you guys are obviously doing a great job of that already. We heard several stories this morning. I loved hearing about Tom's adventures in Bangladesh, for example. Many of the stories I've heard stick out in my mind. But when we're having these storytelling, story-worthy moments in our lives all the time, and if we're not writing them down, we may lose them, we may forget them, and we won't be able to share them later. So I encourage you to start a story bank, which sounds elaborate, but it's actually very simple. Just a Google Doc, a piece of paper where you start collecting your story. And when something story-worthy happens, just write down a few notes to help you remember the story. You don't have to write out the whole story. Let me tell you a story. We have 2 cats at home. We have Panther and we have Pippin. And Panther is the sweetest little black cat you ever did see in your life. And then we have Pippin. and Pippin is our story cat because he gets in trouble. When we brought the cats home from the Humane Society, Pippin went right to the window and he started pacing back and forth, and he was giving us these sorrowful meows. He was like, meow, meow. It was clear that the one place that he wanted to be was outside. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but these days it's not as simple as just letting your cat outside. There's plenty of articles out there saying that's just not a good idea anymore. But we wanted to give Pippin a little bit of freedom, so we took him out in the backyard and we set him down on the ground. And within about 30 seconds, he is up at the top of this 100-foot tree in our backyard. And a few minutes later, we're on the phone with Cat Canopy Rescue, and they give us some tips to talk him down out of the tree. Well, a few weeks go by, and he's been a good guy, so we decide to let him try again. We take him out in the backyard, we set him down on the ground, and he's up on the roof this time. And we're like, how are we gonna get him down off the roof? But then he sees Jack, the neighbor cat. And he actually literally jumps 12 feet off of the roof to go and attack Jack, and we have to grab him to make sure that he doesn't kill the neighbor cat. A few more weeks go by, we try one more time. We said, we'll let him out one more time. Surely it'll be better this time. We put him down on the ground, and within about 5 minutes, he jumps like 5 feet in the air, and we're like, what's going on? Well, we find out about an hour later that he had eaten a bee.
Oh.
And the bee had stung the roof of his mouth, and now his face was swelling up to the point where he was looking kind of like the cat version of Rocky Balboa at the end of the movie. He's like, Adrian, no. So why am I telling you these stories? Well, hopefully they are somewhat entertaining, a little bit relatable, a little human. One of the things we do with stories is connect on a human level. Two, I could pivot at this point to make a point and say, hey, maybe there's something you're struggling with and you keep falling and failing at. Well, keep going. You know, we found our solution. Our solution was we got a 50-foot leash. And then we have the cats on a 50-foot leashes in the backyard. It's kind of ridiculous, but it works more or less. Your 50-foot leash solution might be right around the corner, I could say. But what I'm actually, the main point, the main reason I bring this up is because this is an example of how to story up. I storied up, I collected these stories over the course of the year about Pippin, and because of that, I didn't forget them. I wasn't sure how I was going to use them, and I was able to deliver them today. Story up. Okay, so the next key is to show up. Show up. And by show up, I mean to get present. In the theater world, where I come from, this is called stage presence. In the business world, it's called executive presence. And there's an example of this. Former President Ronald Reagan, who of course was an actor before he became president, said, I don't know how anybody can do this job without having been an actor previously. Another person that I feel is very good at showing up for his story was Academy Award winner Christian Bale, who I felt honored to meet when I was playing a small part in The Machinist, a psychological thriller that a lot of people seem to enjoy. And I was on set actually with Christian, and he's actually a nice guy. I think he gets a bad rap. He was on this Terminator movie, and they filmed him kind of being really rough with somebody. But for me, he was really nice. I didn't actually know who he was at the time. And so we were having a casual conversation. I actually asked at some point, so do you do this full time? I think he might have enjoyed that, just having someone not know who he was. But Christian Bale is somebody who shows up to play his role. Actually, for this role, he lost 60 pounds to play the role. Nobody even asked him to do that. So he's a very intense guy. who wanted to really show up authentically for his part. You don't have to lose 60 pounds to show up for your story, but there's a few things you can do. When I work with my clients, we do some improv and theater techniques, but we don't have time to get into those now. But one tip I can give you is to choose a story, choose your story well, right? So choose a story that authentically lights you up. A lot of people in business think they need to tell the nuts and bolts story of the founding of their company. I started it in the garage. I got my first Series A funding at this date. But those stories can be kind of dry. So the story that lights you up might not be the one that you expect it to be. So just try on different stories and see which ones really fit. Okay, so the last key is to fess up. And by fess up, I mean to go ahead and confess that you are a human being. And that means that you have challenges, you have struggles, you fail, you fall flat on your face sometimes. Some of you may have even gone so far down that you didn't know whether you were going to be able to get back up again. When I graduated from college, I lost my hell yeah. I went to the University of Washington and I tried the fraternities. That didn't quite work out for me. I tried the dorms. I couldn't find my place there. I tried a lot of different places to find my home outside of home, and I couldn't find that place. I started to feel lost. And by the end of my senior year in college, I started to experience clinical depression. And then things got so bad that the fall after I graduated, I find myself in the woods. This was October 22nd, 1993, with a bottle of Jack Daniels and a bottle of sleeping pills. And I take a handful of the sleeping pills and I wash it down with the Jack Daniels. And then I coughed them back up because I knew that I didn't want to die that day. I just wanted to come alive again, but I didn't know how to do it. Well, luckily I didn't die that day. I went home and eventually I got better. I continued to struggle with depression throughout my 20s, but and a few years later, I was in Barcelona, Spain, and I was struggling with depression again. And I decided to do something different. I decided to go to a Zen dojo, kind of a meditation center down the street, and sit and meditate. And as I'm meditating, I noticed something that I hadn't noticed before. And it was that I was not my thoughts. I was here observing, and my thoughts, my depressed thoughts, were here. And that was the beginning of a journey for me, a personal development journey. I kept meditating. I stopped drinking. I came home from Spain. I started going to support group meetings. I went to therapy. I went to coaching. It was a joyful journey of personal development. But because I went on that journey, and I'm still on that journey, I am happy to say that I've been depression-free for over 16 years. So that's a little bit about my challenges, but what about you guys? What are some of the challenges that you face? And I'm not going to call on anybody and ask you to share. And actually, you guys are probably a few steps ahead of a lot of people. I hear even this morning, I've heard you guys sharing some of your challenges. You guys are already telling stories. You probably already know about the power of storytelling. So I may be preaching to the choir here. But in general, in business, the tendency is to want to talk about the good stuff, right? If you go to your LinkedIn feed today, very likely you're going to see a series of posts about that new promotion I just got, the new client I just won, the award we just won, the big stage I just spoke on. That's great. It's okay to share the good stuff that is happening. But I would argue that just talking about things going well is not a story. Story by its very nature, the very structure of a story is it's inherent that it's about conflict. So it's about challenges, struggles, falling down, failure, getting back up again, falling down again, getting up, and then maybe you have a happy ending, or maybe you don't, but you learn something along the way. That's more of a story. So I encourage you to get, I think that maybe you guys are out there doing this already, but if not, or if you are, then even more, get vulnerable, get real, get authentic. And we don't have to feel like this is something that is uncharted territory. There's actually top leaders in the world doing this today, including right in our own backyard. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, has shared very openly and authentically about the challenges he faced when his son, his firstborn son, Zane, was born with cerebral palsy. And Sheryl Sandberg is another example of Facebook and Lean In, the best-selling book Lean In. She's shared very openly and honestly and authentically about the struggles she faced when her husband died suddenly a few years ago. And those are just a couple of examples, but there's dozens more. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go out and tell the world your deepest, darkest secrets tomorrow, but I would challenge you to think of maybe one small thing that you're struggling with right now that maybe you would keep to yourself, and find an audience that feels appropriate to you, whether it's one person, a few people, or more. And share, get real, get vulnerable, and see what happens. See what that reaction is. I think you might be surprised. Fess up. So those are my three keys: story up, show up, and fess up. If you're interested in diving more into the world of business storytelling, then I encourage you to go to normanjbell.com, where you can sign up to download a free 3-step process that you can use to uncover, develop, and deliver the core stories that you can use to connect with your audiences. And I believe there's also a prize here to get a 45-minute session with me. There's also a sign-up sheet at the back if you want to sign up for more information. Okay, so I always like to round things out. I do this on my podcast. I round things out by saying, hell yes, on the count of 3. Are you guys willing to do that with me? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Hell yes.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Norman. I think we have time for a couple questions.
Oh, yeah, sure.
If anybody had any quick questions for Norman.
Just want to endorse the storytelling. What a piece. Our priest in our parish just retired. He was excellent. Have a theme and he grounded several different stories.
Yeah.
And his replacement never.
Uh-huh.
It's really hard to hear about humility for 25 minutes of that story.
Right.
It's just difficult. It becomes too kind of ethereal. So
Right.
I always appreciate his ability to tell stories of prior people. But now
Yeah.
it really underscores it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, the more that I focus on this area, the more that I see it myself. Like it actually accesses a different part of the brain. Stories stick more than just information. So if you have a point that you're trying to make and you wrap it in a story, people are much more likely to remember it than if you just deliver a bare data point.
Any other question?
Yep. I have a cousin who is a Griot, so he goes around telling stories, usually with an African flair behind it. He lives in Maryland. He came out to visit me and my school, and we had a little mini assembly. And the way that he tells stories, he incorporates his life into these kind of fictional type stories. And it was amazing how much I learned from him. Now, we basically grew up together. We're about the same age. And I do not remember him being in the foster care system, he and his sister. And so that kind of came through, and I'm sitting in the back of the library like, what? And the kids are mesmerized. I know, but it was through that storytelling that I caught that, and it
She's doing stuff with me. I mean, I've known him all, I just never that, but I learned something about him just through his own storytelling.
That's great. Powerful tool for learning even about growth. Yeah, and maybe, I don't know if, are you guys already out there using storytelling to in your service work? Am I really preaching to the choir? You guys all like, yeah, we know this. Yeah, we're already using stories. Yeah.
Well, I'm a presenter, facilitator, coach, etc. And I tell stories because I think my audience, when I'm teaching a class, is looking at me and wondering, is she a person like me? Who is she? How am I going to relate to her? And I tell stories for in service of the point we're trying to make in the class. And what I've discovered is that my evaluations, which were always good, are better now because there's a connection. So I see it as a way of connecting with your audience, not so much for you, but for bringing them along with you.
Yeah, to make that human connection, right? Who is this person up here? Right, we're always kind of evaluating who is this person up here, and if you're just talking about all the great stuff that you've done, people can feel a little bit of a distance. But when you start to share honestly about maybe some of the challenges you face as well.
Well, thank you again, Norman. Our club is dedicated to the future of our community by serving the educational needs of young people. And on behalf of the club, in recognition of you speaking today, we'd like to donate 300 pounds of food to Harvest Against Hunger to help make sure that kids and their families can get to school with the food that they need. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. And with that, I believe we have a raffle.
Yes, so our speaker next week, speaking of storytelling, our speaker next week is a fellow by the name of Mateo Mondo. And he just recently had his book published. His book is called The Midtown Mad Hatter. And he's a local author, he's getting good reviews. And so he's gonna come and talk to us about his book and the process of writing it, and hopefully it will be entertaining. So every week we do a raffle. And if you buy a raffle ticket, half the money goes back to the club so that we can do all the amazing things that we do, and half the money goes into a progressively growing pot. And what we do is Norman in a minute is going to draw a ticket, and if your number is drawn, you win two things. The first thing you win is you win a 45-minute coaching session with Norman. The second thing you win is a chance to win the progressive pot, which today is $704. I believe there are 27 cards left. If you draw the Joker, you get the $704. If you draw any other card, it goes back in the case, the pot grows again next week, and we do it all over again. So. Norman.
Right. Read the ticket number.
Just the last three.
Last three. 864.
What does it mean?
864.
No.
I think
You should. Gotta be you, Charlie. Got it.
Finally won. The joke there is Tony always wins, but I never.
Now, let's see.
45 minutes.
To the left or right?
Right.
Okay. You go. Okay. What is?
Everybody's like, oh. All right. Well, great meeting. In fact, I don't know if you guys, do you mind if I take a picture of you? I can't even get everybody in the shot. There's so many people around. All right, everybody wave. All right. We've got an Instagram account. So wanted to make sure I get a good photo. All right, so board meetings, please let's head over very quickly to the lounge for the board meetings, and I will see everybody next week. Meeting is adjourned.
That's great.
All right, thank you, Norman. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, I heard that. I was shit.
Have a good week.
So, you want to go ahead and fill that out?
So Sherry, two things. Number one is, so this upcoming speaker is not the speaker.
No, she's on the 8.
Okay.
She's on 8. So this is on 8. Yeah.
That's right.
Probably.
And this guy is, what's his topic? I'm just trying to pick the right song and.
Yeah, let me email it to you.
Okay, that'd be fine.
I'll email it to you because
Yeah, probably have a lot of stories.
he has this concern.
Okay. And it's Mateo Monto.
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
And then, and that's 10-1. And then she's on 10-8. And she's about inclusivity.
Yeah, she's actually she has a gym and they specialize in like transgender that sort of thing.
Cool.
She's super
And then 15th is about STEM.
Yeah, and so the 15th is actually, I don't know who that is.
Okay.
Someone else, I think. It's smart to find that one out.
Okay. So, second thing is I went, maybe my mother helped put together a film art and book festival down in Tacoma.
Really?
And it's over last weekend for last weekend before. Anyway, it's over 3 days. And she got probably 20 Kara and I walked around and talked to a bunch of them, and I got their cards, their little book and two of them, I said, I'm at a Rotary Club, and they said, oh God, we love it. So I'm going to say to you, there's one woman who writes, and she's very interesting, and she'd be a great speaker. She writes historic fiction. So she's got one book that is about the rum runners in the San Juan. Yeah, that's kind of it was